What's up guys, Mr.W here, and I'm back with another online social group. So far we've talked about how change can cause a problem, and how that problem can have different sizes, whether that be small, medium, or large. Well, we're going to be talking about how to solve problems today. So let's take an example of my own. So obviously with all of this quarantine stuff and coronavirus stuff going on, places to get my hair cut have not been open. And it kind of felt like a medium problem to me where, I wanted it to get solved, but I needed someone else's help. And then I kind of worked through it and I realized that this could be a small problem. So I actually found somebody who owns hair clippers and I decided to shave the sides and back myself to try and solve my problem. Now, yes, the top is still long. It's a different style than I normally would have it, but the top is still long, and the reason for that is because I just don't trust myself with scissors as far as cutting my own hair. And let's be honest, if I cut the top of my hair, we're gonna have what feels like a really big problem to me. Now, it's not actually a big problem, but it's gonna feel like it to me because I might look ridiculous. So this is gonna have to do until I can get somewhere to get a real haircut. But what I needed to find to my problem was a solution. So a solution is the action that you take in order to solve a problem. So for me, my solution was I found somebody that owned the hair clippers and I cut the parts to me that looked the worst and were the longest. And so my solution was, you know what, I'll trim it up myself until I can go somewhere and get it done right. So whenever you have a problem or someone you know has a problem, they need to figure out some solutions. So why is it important to solve a problem? Well, I guess we could live our life always just ignoring problems and trying to move on with them, but eventually they're going to catch up to us and it's going to become very stressful. And if we don't solve the problem, we're going to get more and more and more problems, and that's just not fun. Nobody wants to deal with tons and tons and tons of problems. So we have to come up with ways to solve them or solutions. So, I want you to think about when is a time that you had to solve a problem. And so, like we talked about before, so is it easier for you to solve that small problem or your big problems? Which one's easier to solve? And I think you know the answer to that because we've been working on that now for a little while. So, how do we solve a problem? So, like I said, my problem was kind of a medium problem at first. I felt like I really needed someone else's help to solve my problem, but I kept thinking it over and I figured out a way to solve the problem myself, which then turned it into a small problem. So, the way that process works is first of all, you need to figure out what is the problem. So, it's important to figure out what the problem is because if you don't know, how are you going to solve it? If I didn't know my hair needed to be cut, why would I ever solve that? Now, that's not really a real deep problem. It was just kind of a personal preference. But let's say one of my friends is mad at me. And maybe they're mad at me because I didn't invite them over to my house and I invited some other friends. But let's say that I don't know that that's the problem. How am I going to solve that problem? I can't solve it if I don't know what the problem is. So the first step to solving a problem is figuring out what is your problem. The next step to solving a problem is we have to think of solutions. So now there's an S on solutions for a reason, because we need to come up with multiple ways to solve our problem. So as with my hair cutting problem, I could have waited and got my hair cut later on when they opened back up. I could have trusted somebody else to do it, but there's some risks involved in that. Or I could try and do it myself. So I had different solutions that I could have tried. And it's important because sometimes your solution's just not going to work. Sometimes that plan isn't going to work out, and it's good to have another plan. So my first thought was, well, maybe I know somebody who could cut hair. But right now, with the whole virus thing going on, it's not in our best interest to be interacting with more people than we have to. And getting my hair cut wasn't a necessity. So that first solution wasn't going to work for me. The next solution was I can cut it myself. I decided the next solution was cut it myself. And I did just that. And I swear to you, I was so nervous while doing it. I was holding that razor next to my head for a long time before I went for that first cut. I kept expecting whole chunks of hair to fly off, and honestly, that's not how it works. It's just not how it works. But in my head, I pictured the entire side of my hair falling off as soon as I touched it. But it's not how it worked. But I had another solution of I could wait. I could wait and let my hair grow, and I could come up with ways to hide my way too long hair. And that would be a great backup plan. So I had another plan that if me cutting it myself didn't work, because if I cut it myself and it looks crazy, well, honestly, with the quarantine, not that many people were going to see me anyways. So it wasn't that big of a deal. And I always had the backup plan of once things open back up in about a week or so, hopefully, I could go and get it cut again. So I had multiple solutions. But what if my problem was more difficult and I couldn't come up with a good solution? Well, that's when I could ask a trusted adult. I could ask my family for help. I could ask friends for help. And that's kind of when we get into that medium and large size problem or big problem that we had talked about before. Sometimes our problems are going to be difficult to come up with solutions. And the more we practice solving our own problems, the better we're going to be at coming up with solutions without needing someone else's help. So the ultimate goal is to not make it so we never have problems, because you're always going to have problems. But the ultimate goal is to learn to solve them yourself without always needing someone else's help. So we want to turn more of those medium problems into small problems. And so we can do this by these steps. We think about what the problem is, and we can practice coming up with solutions. And we try those solutions, and some of them are not going to work. And sometimes we're going to need other people's help, and that's okay. It's important I think about how others might feel too, because then my solution might create more problems. Maybe my friends are then mad at me. Maybe my parents are then mad at me. It seemed like a good solution to the problem, but honestly, it had other problems that came of it too. So sometimes we have to think about how our solution is going to make other people's feel before we choose that solution. Why is it important to think about how our solutions might make other people feel though? So let's think about this. Right, if I have this problem and I'm thinking only about how to solve it for myself, and then all of a sudden someone else I know's feelings get hurt, or someone else I know then they have a problem, we need to make sure all of our solutions are safe. Because if our solution isn't safe, then we're going to create more problems that need to be solved. And in the end, that doesn't help us. So why is it important for our solution to be fair? Well, once again, if our solution isn't fair, it could create more problems. If we are playing a game and we say, well, there's an obvious solution here, I'm mad that I'm not winning, so the new rule is I always win. Well, that's not fair, because now everyone else is going to be upset that they are not getting a chance to win or even an opportunity to try to win. And then we think about which solution do we think is going to work best. And this is important because we really need to think through our solutions, because there's always many solutions to one problem. And sometimes they're not going to make other people feel good. Sometimes they're not going to be fair. And so we need to think about that first. That way, we can try and make the best decision we can to solve our problem. And then after we have decided what the problem is, we've thought of solutions, we've thought about which solution is going to be best based on how other people feel, is it safe, is it fair, now it's time to choose it and use it. And it rhymes and everything, so it's great. We choose it and we use it. So we choose our solution that we think is going to be best. And you know what? Sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's not. And if it doesn't work, we can try a different solution. And if we can't come up with any solutions that work, we can ask for help. So, the only questions I'm going to have for this video that you can leave in the comments below, or you can answer in my Google Classroom, or whatever way you've been answering these questions, I want you to think about what is a problem that you've had to solve that you needed a solution for. So what is a problem that you needed a solution for? What were some ways that you thought you could solve this problem? And did your solutions work? So those are the things I want you to think about. What's a problem you've had? What are some of the solutions you came up with? Did your solution work? So thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed the online social group. As we continue to finish off our school year, we got about 3 weeks left. We can do this. Keep going, guys. You're doing great. I really appreciate you and all your hard work. Thank you so much, guys.